I flew over my house a couple of weeks ago. Massive. Massive. Filled the sky, it did. Made the earth move. Yeah, piece of kit. It's the Vulcan.
This is the inside story about one of Britain's best-loved aeroplanes and its final flying days. The Avro Vulcan was the plane that protected the nation, a Cold War icon designed to launch a massive nuclear retaliation at the Soviet Union. Today, only one airworthy Vulcan survives, but now too expensive to maintain. This technological masterpiece is about to be grounded forever.
Well, it's 30 years past retirement, so we can't say with 100% confidence that it's going to run swimmingly. We're in unknown territory.
Towards me, Guy.
Guy Martin has been granted privileged access to help prepare the aircraft for its most ambitious mission ever. A 1,000-mile farewell tour of Britain. Guy will also learn about the impossible decisions the Vulcan's elite pilots faced.
One of the things you had to come to terms with is that it may well be that you result in the death of hundreds of thousands of people on the ground.
He'll experience the rare honour of flying in a Vulcan formation.
I reckon I could have jumped onto the Vulcan. That's how close it was.
And he'll become one of the few civilians to ever take control of a military aircraft.
You have control. Thank you. I think that was a little bit more than a wheelie.
Stand by for broadcast. Stand by for broadcast. Air raid warning red. I say again, air raid warning red.
Vulcan nuclear bombers were scrambled from places like this. Robin Hood Airport near Doncaster is a former RAF base. Of the 136 Vulcans built, only one is left flying. This is where she lives, in her original 1950s Cold War hangar.
Oh, we love a new project. We love a new job. We love a new job.
Designation XH558. Name, the Spirit of Great Britain.
That's a lot of playing.
This is the first time Guy's seen a Vulcan up close.
Look at that. Just massive. It's the size of the sky. 45 ton as it sits here. 93 ton when it's full of fuel. 14 fuel tanks in that. 14 fuel tanks. No, it's quite nearly, not quite, but nearly the speed of sound. It's like 700 odd mile an hour. That's a lot of plane, though.
The Vulcan was a remarkable leap forward. The concept was dreamt up in 1947 by Roy Chadwick, whose other celebrated bomber, the Lancaster, entered service just 5 years earlier.
Going from a Lancaster bomber to this in the space of 5 years, it's like nothing. It's like it's nothing like. You might say that it's a quantum leap. I wouldn't use that word. I haven't thought of the word yet that I'd use. But this is just, you know, one of those moments. Who's that? I've come up with that. It's one of those moments. Look at it, hey? Handled like a fighter, but then could drop massive nuclear bombs.
There are 4 busy months of air displays to go before 558's final flight, and Guy starts work by reporting to his new boss.
We've heard a lot about Taff. He's Welsh, isn't he? He's Welsh. I should have known that.
Kevin Taff Stone is 558's chief engineer.
How you doing?
All right, Taff. Good to meet you. I'm Guy.
Pleased to meet you.
So what's the plan then?
This is the man responsible for keeping the Vulcan flying way past her sell-by date.
The big...
So if a wing dropped off this, it's your fault?
Yes, in the court of law, I could be culpable for it
Oh, heck.
and go to prison.
It's on his head that he'd go down for 5 years.
And so before Guy is let anywhere near 558,
So we are actually on a live, active airfield.
Taff insists on some essential training.
Health and safety induction.
I am a first aider, so there's any problems, I can deal with all that lot. And obviously, we don't get drinking drunk.
No, I'm not very good at that, boy.
No.
But that doesn't matter. If it means to get the chance to work on a Vulcan, then I'm all for it.
Taff is a highly experienced former RAF engineer. He worked on Vulcans for 30 years and flew with the Red Arrows as the back seat technician.
They are live ejection seats. So if you...
558 is his pride and joy.
She's temperamental, high maintenance, but they're going to do liver. It's a proper engineering aircraft. There's no little black boxes to tell you what's wrong there. You get to know and feel the aircraft. That's our inductions.
With the induction over, work can begin.
Yeah.
Take the weights, up you go.
The first job is a big one, testing 558's engines.
Go on, what's happening?
Taff enlists Guy's help for the first crucial stage of the operation.
One handle, 6 doors. Away we
Right,
go.
I'll get cracking then.
Come on. That's it.
That's it, excuse me. Ooh. 6 ton a door.
Yep. It's filled with ballast, the bomb blasts.
Is that right?
Yeah. That'll do you, Guy.
This servicing procedure is performed every 20 flying hours and has been carried out since the Vulcan entered service 59 years ago. Today's the final time it will ever be done while she's flying. The companies that sign off 558's annual safety checks have run out of the necessary 1950s expertise. So at the end of the year, the permit to fly will not be renewed.
I'm not particularly looking forward to it. You always want to be the best and you want to keep it going right to the end. And then you're thinking, but I don't want it to be the end. You just want to keep it going for as long as physically possible.
That feels like falling in a chasm. It's built to fly, and yet they're getting rid of the best British bomber ever built. Something wrong somewhere there.
Okay. This is a jet engine to start the jet engines.
We're clear behind Sam.
And Startmaster's on.
Ignition is on.
Okay, air is on 4.
Buttons in.
Once started, each engine is checked at full power. Sucking in 100 kilograms of air a second creates the Vulcan's legendary howl.
Ground runs went well. Shutting down, 0 fuel.
Take some beating that, boys. Take some beating.
Thanks everyone, all complete, everything went well.
All right, the ground's shaking, but as well as the ground, it's like my innards are moving inside me. Oh. One of them, I've never felt anything like that. But yes, test passed. We're one step nearer to a final flight. It's going to be emotional.
This breathtaking aircraft was designed and built entirely in Great Britain. It was the first British machine of the atomic age. And yet it started as a humble doodle on a newspaper. When World War II ended, the Cold War began. In the face of an increasingly belligerent Soviet Union, Labour Prime Minister Clement Attlee commissioned an atomic bomb program to act as Britain's nuclear deterrent. This left his Ministry of Supply with the problem of how to deliver that deterrent. They tendered for an aircraft capable of carrying a 5-ton nuclear payload to Moscow in less than 3 hours, flying twice as high as anything that had gone before in order to avoid Russian defenses. AV Rowe of Manchester rose to the challenge. Technical director Roy Chadwick realised conventional straight wings wouldn't be up to the job. Instead, he suggested a radical triangular delta wing.
Obviously, it's great for lift because we've got a massive amount of wing area. It makes the whole fuselage very stiff because it's all joined together in one lump, and we've got loads of area for storing petrol. Or fuel, we'll call it fuel.
Chadwick's original doodles became designs for a plane built around a bomb. The five-man crew were almost an afterthought.
You need to have a look in it. Is there any light? Will this camera be able to see that? She's cosy. She's cosy, mate. Right. Yeah, what we've got here is that's the pilot, number one pilot. That's the co-pilot. This is me on the stairs, and there is no space. You could not swing cats around in here. Here we have AEO, Air Electronics Officer.
He looks after all the plane's electrical gubbins, and there is a lot of electrics on this. Nav Plotter, he looks after where the plane's going.
And here we have Nav Radar.
He looks after dropping the bombs.
See this in the corner? See that? Manual bomb dropper, eh? That is a powerful button. So you're thinking, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and that's your soup warmer that took 90 minutes to warm. It recirculates the air in the engine bay to warm that up. 90 minutes! You've broken me! You've broken me! But she is busy. I press the button.
The preparations for Vulcan 558's final flying days are underway, but the next task Guy will face could put the entire plane's airworthiness at risk. XH-558 is the last airworthy example of the iconic Vulcan bomber. But now this 55-year-old aircraft has reached retirement age. At the end of a busy flying season, she'll embark on an ambitious 1,000-mile farewell tour before being permanently grounded. Guy Martin has been allowed to join the select engineering team who maintain the aircraft.
Down a little bit, not too much.
That's it, that's it. She's in. Yeah, no messing, boy, no messing.
His little puppy dog here, he's off, isn't he? He ain't got his hand in grease, he's not happy. Same as all of us.
We love it.
Guy's working on the most blessed of all the Vulcans. 558 is lucky to be the last one flying. In the early 1980s, the Vulcan fleet had reached the end of its serviceable life and was sliced up for scrap. But 558 was given a stay of execution when she was bought by a private enthusiast.
In the House of Commons this afternoon, Mr. Jonathan Aiken will announce the sale of the Vulcan XH-558 to Mr. David Walton.
Do you know how much he paid? Got the original mag and the original advert. Anyway, in '92, he paid £25,000. You know, you do think that initially, God, £25,000, get a Vulcan bomber for £25,000, great. But then you've got to think, how are you going to explain that to the missus?
558 was now a museum piece. But 5 years later, in 1997, a Vulcan superfan had other ideas.
I said to myself, I'm damned if this aircraft will never fly again. Sends a shiver down my spine even now.
Robert Fleming, keen air cadet, nuclear physicist taught by Stephen Hawking, and pioneer of computer networking at the start of the World Wide Web, gave up his executive salary to try and restore 558 to flight.
It was an immense personal risk. Some of my old friends of the time thought I was mad, which, to be honest, was one possible explanation. I regard this as the Everest of aircraft restorations. It must be. And I have to admit, at times I was wondering whether or not I was going to be Mallory or Hillary. I do think there's an engineer's gut feel that I certainly feel. From the very earliest days, I was convinced that we could return the aircraft to fly based on instinct rather than actual firm knowledge. We thought we'd need about $1.5 million to restore the aircraft. That proved to be a huge underestimate.
The project was on the brink of financial ruin, and as a last resort, Plemming spent 3 solid months preparing a submission to the Heritage Lottery Fund.
And this is it. This is 2 volumes worth 110,000 words of what is needed to make a successful Lottery Fund grant application. A pretty reasonable novel.
They were awarded £2.7 million. Public donations more than doubled that figure, and in 2007, after 100,000 man-hours, the world's most complex restoration was rolled out of her hangar. 558 was towed past her adoring public, taxied to the runway, made the familiar howl, reached 116 miles per hour, and flew for the first time in 14 years. The plane has been a star of air shows ever since.
There has been a cost. I guess I could have earned very much more money than I've earned. I'm not sure whether or not the stress has caused medical problems or whatever, but there have been a few milestone medical issues along the way. Undoubtedly worth it, no question. We've given so much pleasure to so many people.
It is a dear job to run. How much does it cost? I don't want to, you don't really ask, but I thought I should ask.
The figure that we have had to raise year on year is about £2.25 million.
£2.25 million?
Well, we can take the aircraft to the people. We're seen by somewhere between 2 and 3 million people a year. And in my head, that's a pound a smile.
The Vulcan is funded largely by public money and displays for around 40 hours a year. The maintenance alone to keep the plane safe runs up an annual bill of £1 million. None of the servicing jobs on the Vulcan are straightforward. Checking for airframe fatigue requires the plane to be jacked up off the ground. But lowering it back down again is one of the riskiest procedures the team carry out. Guy will have to pay attention to everything Crew Chief Taff tells him.
Right then, let's get some work done.
It sounds a bit dramatic that we say if you let one jack down too fast, you write the whole plane off. But that is the case.
Once the wing supports have been removed, the aircraft is left sitting on hydraulic jacks. 45 tons of priceless aeroplane is balanced on just 4 small jacking points.
If you come down incorrectly and it slips off, then it could completely ruin the aircraft, or it could twist the airframe.
Oh, heck.
There are no spare airframes, so a twist here would leave the aircraft permanently grounded. Safely jacking a Vulcan has always relied on close teamwork. 558's airworthiness is on the line. So Guy will work alongside former RAF technician Ray Watts.
We keep our eye on Mark.
Yes.
So our two come down together.
Yes.
And the guys come down together and we just stop.
Yeah.
And basically, if any doubt and you're not happy, we shout stop.
Yeah.
And all 4 of us will stop.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth on these when I was 18 to 22. It's a bond that stays with you. It's going to be a sad day when the last flight goes. You'll see a lot of people upset. And I don't really want to talk about that day.
Okay, all together, down 1.
Guy slowly releases the valve, and the painstaking procedure begins.
You think that's pace or a bit?
That's fine, so we just keep our eye on that one as well, just watch them both.
Taff was sat in the cockpit watching a plumb bob. So Taff knows if it's back end too low or front end too low or cross cornered, you know, that's when it's going to stress the airframe, you see, so everyone lets the jacks down evenly.
Okay, fronts only down one.
Fronts only down one.
Okay, stop.
You can hear it creaking. Yeah, the airframe creaking hull. What's that?
Nobody panics, and Taff guides the fractional correction that's necessary.
Front right only down one.
The plumb bob returns to centre.
Stop.
These boys have done this before. We're in good hands.
"35 minutes after starting the process, the Vulcan has descended 18 inches and is safely back on solid ground.
Weight off.
That's it, we're done. We've now took the Vulcan off deck, mate.
Spot on, mate. I'm impressed that they trusted me with the knob on the jack. But he was all right, we got it done.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers, boy.
The Vulcan's radical design relied on a number of complex electrical systems to help it fly. Although commonplace today, when the first prototype was built in the 1950s, they were completely untested.
We've got no fancy computer programs back then to tell us if it's going to fly or if it's going to do this or do that. We need to build one and then get a pilot daft enough to fly it.
That man was the debonair wing commander, Rowley Falk.
Rowley, of course, was always dressed immaculately in his grey pinstripe suit. And he said an aircraft should be as clean as a car. It shouldn't be necessary to put on protective clothing.
In August 1952, Falk stepped forward to see if a full-size Vulcan would fly. It had taken 5 years to reach this point. Avro designer Stuart Davis had developed the Delta concept and witnessed the maiden voyage with his daughter.
I was 12 years old, and down we go to stand with the other bystanders. Great anticipation.
Clear to taxi, runway 26.
He teased us a bit because he took it on 1 or 2 little test runs down the runway before he actually did anything.
698 Woodford Tower, cleared for takeoff.
And then this beautiful bird took off into the sky, and we all thought, wow.
It stopped the whole of Cheshire, the traffic, everything, ground to a standstill, because they'd never seen anything like this at all. They thought it was on your amount of space. It came over the new assembly here at Woodford, and he rolled it like a fighter. We couldn't believe it, that such a massive aircraft could be rolled, and he smashed all the glass in the roof of the new assembly, and it was like that for a long time, until the roof was redone. I've never forgot that. All the workforce thought it was terrific.
He did put the aircraft through a lot of manoeuvres. They weren't always manoeuvres that he had been asked to put it through. And I can remember my father saying he shouldn't have done that. But it just shows how good the aircraft was.
Rowley, of course, was a superb pilot, but being a superb pilot doesn't really ensure that the aircraft is ideal. It's absolutely vital that the aircraft can be handled by the worst pilot in the squadron, if you like, and not only the best.
So before the plane was handed over to the RAF, brave pilots like Tony Blackman had to test it to the limit.
The Vulcan, it was always particularly exciting because you would lose control at the maximum speed. The aircraft would just try and dive for home.
Avro spent 4 years refining the design, using as much cutting-edge technology as possible, from analysing shockwaves in wind tunnels to early computers.
Calculations which would have taken a month can now be condensed into a matter of minutes.
That's what was so amazing about the Vulcan. In spite of this very unfortunate handling, we managed to make it into a very effective bomber.
The Vulcan entered service in 1956. But its smooth shape influenced the design of stealth bombers some 30 years later, and its Rolls-Royce Olympus engines became the heart of Concorde.
My father was extremely proud of it, and every time I've seen it fly since, tears come to my eyes. I think of my father.
Few machines inspire emotions like the Vulcan, as Guy's about to find out for himself, with a rare chance to fly alongside it in formation.
We have visual.
Guy Martin is about to see one of the final displays of the last airworthy Vulcan, the legendary nuclear bomber.
Can you see the sound? See the It makes that noise between 85 and 97% throttle. They didn't design it to do that. It just happened that it's the air rushing through the engines, down the tunnels. You know, it's like a resonance. It's like blowing over the top of a milk bottle. I don't know if you can hear that. It just opened her up there. The howl, you feel a howl off that.
The only thing better than experiencing a Vulcan display from the ground is to watch it from the sky. The Blades aerobatic team have flown alongside 558 on numerous occasions and are marking this, their final display together, by inviting a Spitfire to join the formation. And Guy.
All right, mate.
He'll be flown by Miles Garland, one of the Red Arrow's youngest ever squadron leaders.
Don't be shy, my mother wasn't.
So what's the craziest thing you've done?
What's the craziest thing I've done?
Yeah.
Just seconds after takeoff, Guy's within a wingspan of the Vulcan.
It's a bold statement, that, but I don't think there's anyone that's got any nearer to a flying Vulcan than me and Miles. I reckon I could have jumped onto the Vulcan like a bloody... You know, that's how close it was. It was going that slow, it looked like it was going to fall out of the sky. But it wasn't, we was doing 180 miles an hour.
The size of it in relation to the Spitfire.
The Spitfire is 20 years older than the Vulcan, yet is still nowhere near retirement, which begs an obvious question.
There's a load of Spitfires flying. Why can't the Vulcan carry on flying? She's not as simple as that, mate. Because the Spitfire, its cables, rods, linkages, you could build it in your shed. But the Vulcan could not be further from that.
It has 14 miles of cabling, more than 100,000 parts, and with no manual overrides, if there's a system failure, it can't be glided to the ground. With the engineering firms who guarantee her safety now running out of the old-fashioned skills needed to support her, 558 has to be retired.
Vulcan's going to accelerate away now, Guy. You might want to film it. Perfect. Vulcan in go. Hey. Yeah, that's the flying with the Vulcan complete. Mega. Perfect, guys. Thank you very much.
I'm probably the last person that's going to get as near as that to a flying Vulcan. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I know, that's it.